Hello and welcome back to the Anxiety Relief Podcast. If this is your first time listening, my name is Ross, and this podcast exists to help you understand anxiety, calm your nervous system, and help you realize that you are not broken. So, in the last episode, I shared my own story with anxiety and talked about what that anxiety meant for me. But also, most importantly, I talked about what anxiety actually is. And in that episode, I just touched on some of the symptoms of anxiety. But today, I want to talk about that part of anxiety a bit more, which is the symptoms, because that is what appears to scare people the most, because a lot of it is so strange and so out there, you would never think that it is a part of anxiety until you have it happen, right? So if you've ever felt strange sensations in your body and thought, oh my God, what on earth is wrong with me? Why do I feel like this? Or if it means something to you that you were thinking, oh my God, is this something serious that's wrong with me, right? Then this episode is for you. Before we go any further, though, I do just want to make one thing clear, and it's really important this episode is not about diagnosing you, okay? So this is not a replacement for medical advice. I am not a doctor, and I cannot tell you what is or is not going on in your body. If you have symptoms that are new, worsening, or worrying, it is always the right thing to get checked by a medical professional. What this episode is about understanding anxiety related symptoms. Because when people understand what anxiety can do to the body, it often helps remove a huge amount of that fear. And when fear reduces, symptoms tend to lose their intensity and their grip on you. So, this episode is about education, reassurance, and helping you feel less alone in what you're experiencing. So I suppose one of the biggest misunderstandings about anxiety is that it's all in the mind, right? That is like you always know if someone's never experienced anxiety because they think it's just a mindset thing. And yes, mindset is important, but it's not just in the mind, right? Anxiety is built into your nervous system. So it's your nervous system response. So when you feel anxious, your nervous system believes you are under threat. And that's not logically, that's biologically. So your body does not care whether the threat is a lion, a difficult conversation, a stressful thought, or like a strange sensation that you can feel. It responds in exactly the same way. And that's where it switches into survival. Get my words out. That is where it switches into survival mode. Yeah. Um, and that's kind of like what people refer to this is often is fight or flight, and there's actually a few more parts to it, but it's kind of that fight or flight. Are you going to fight this threat, or flight? You're going to run away. But what happens most importantly when you're dealing with this is your body essentially releases adrenaline, okay, and with that your heart rate increases and your breathing changes, your blood flow that shifts and your muscles tense. So your senses become a lot sharper. And all of this is designed to protect you. Okay. And the issue is not the response itself. Okay. So anxiety is not the issue. Anxiety is not the bad guy. And I know, like when you've suffered with anxiety, that can be really hard to hear. But just trust me on this because this can be a big mindset shift for you. Okay. So the issue realistically is when the response stays switched on for long periods of time when there is no immediate danger. Okay. I think I gave this example in the last episode, or if I did, I think I said metal detector instead of smoke detector. But what I meant to say was the equivalent of it is this, right? You want to have a smoke detector in your home, don't you? Because if there's a fire, you will want that to tell you that there's smoke in the house so you can get out and stay safe. Okay, so that's a good idea. And that's helpful. Yeah, really helpful for you. It keeps you alive. But when that's not helpful is every time you go to make toast in the morning and you're not even burning it that bad, it goes off as soon as you start cooking your toast, right? That's not what it's meant to do. And that's similar to anxiety because sometimes it goes off when it doesn't need to. And obviously with a smoke alarm, you can just replace the battery and then it will work right. We obviously can't replace our brain, but we can rewire it. Yeah. So whatever age you are, you don't need to be thinking that it means that there's no way you can be, you know, have it rewired and that you're stuck this way because you've always been this way. It can be changed for you. Yeah, it can be changed for you. Um, so that's what I mean when I say about the issue is about how the response is where when you're it's staying switched on, yeah. So when it's doing it when it doesn't need to, when there's no immediate danger to you. Because if there is, great, but if there's not, that's not what we want, and that is what can essentially ruin people's lives and just make it more and more restrictive over time. So when that happens, basically the body starts producing sensations that feel intense, uncomfortable, and often frightening. And it's really important to understand this. So anxiety symptoms are not signs that your body is failing or breaking down. Okay. And I'm going to say that again because sometimes it just helps to hear it and because it is a key point. So what I said was the anxiety symptoms are not signs that your body is failing or breaking down. Okay. So please don't think that it's something wrong with your body or you're born with something wrong with you. Okay. Anxiety does not mean there is something wrong with you. I can't remember who said this or where it came from, but I know at some point on my long kind of self-development journey, and I should have looked this up before, but it's just popped in my mind, so I'm going to say it now. There's a well-known kind of theory, although I think it's been kind of scientifically proven in a way, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe it has, that if you hold on to your limitations, you get to keep them, right? So if you for example, and the example of this would be this: if you were always saying, I would never be able to do X, Y, Z, like I'd never be able to swim. Well, you will never be able to do that if you're telling yourself you can't, because you're not going to try and you believe you can't. So why would you do anything different? And your mind always wants to be proved right, and that will affect the actions you take. So please don't be thinking that there's something wrong with you. Yeah, that's like a key point throughout this podcast. There is not something wrong with you. It's just that your anxiety is triggering at the moment when it doesn't need to. Okay. So anxiety symptoms are not signs that it's your body has got anything wrong with it. Okay. I just want to get that abundantly clear. But there are signs that your nervous system is stuck in that protection mode. Okay. But your body isn't broken. Yeah. It's just being overprotective. And I'll walk you through some of the most common anxiety symptoms, okay? Because one of the things I get loads of messages about is people say, "Oh, I've got X, Y, and Z. Could this be anxiety?" Yeah. And as I said, I'm not a doctor, right? But I've studied and researched anxiety loads. Yeah, like even from when I had it myself, but certainly since I started doing my own coaching as an anxiety coach, like that's all I read about, it's all I listen about. Like I'm so interested in it as an area. Like I've listened to thousands of hours. I expect it must be, yeah, it must be. So yeah, so these are like the common symptoms, okay? Um, and just try not to analyze yourself too much when you're doing this, yeah. But sometimes it's just about you just notice what's going on with your body. All right. So if you recognize in yourself like any of these, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means your nervous system has learned to stay in high alert. Yeah. And I'm going to group these symptoms because anxiety loves variety, and grouping them helps bring a bit of clarity and, most importantly, calm. So I just want to make that clear. And if you're still listening at this point, thank you for listening to the podcast. There's plenty more to come. And make sure you share this with any friends you have as well who will benefit from this podcast, as it really helps a new podcast like this get off the ground. And obviously, the more people who watch and listen, so whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or all the other providers out there, at least it means that you're listening. It's getting the views and the listens and sharing with others, so I can do as much as possible to make this the best show possible for you. So, going back to where we are. So this is about the nervous system sensations. So the symptoms around your head and the nervous system. Okay. So things like dizziness. Now, dizziness does seem to surprise people because they say, "Oh, I don't think it's anxiety because I got dizzy." That is a symptom, unfortunately. right? So dizziness, lightheadedness, that kind of brain fog. You can also get like pressure and tightness in your head. Okay, you can feel spaced out, disconnected. There's depersonalization and derealization. Okay, lots of people get that, and it's a scary, scary thing. But again, that is a common symptom of anxiety. You can have visual disturbances like floaters in your eyes and light sensitivity. And these symptoms are really unsettling, right? Like, especially if you have most of them, but even if you just have one of them, some of them, they can feel really unsettling. But they happen because the adrenaline changes the blood flow and your oxygen levels. And because of that, your brain becomes hyper alert, okay? Because it's trying to keep you alive, yeah? It thinks there's a danger. And you start monitoring yourself more closely at that point because you're scanning for danger, right? And that constant scanning alone, it's going through their motions, even that can create sensations. Okay. So the depersonalization, derealization, so DPDR in particular can be really, really frightening. And that's where you're feeling detached from yourself or the world, and it can make people worry that they're losing control, going mad. But DPDR is a protective response. And essentially, it's the nervous system dampening things down to cope with overload. It feels strange, but it's not dangerous. And it is temporary. I suppose another area I need to go into is the chest and breathing symptoms. This is one that most people have with anxiety, I would say, from most people I've spoke to over the years. And this is probably one of the most provoking areas for people is that chest tightness because people very quickly start thinking there's something wrong with their heart, essentially. But you can also have at the same time as this like a racing heart or it's absolutely pounding. It feel like it's skipping or like extra beats, the shortness of breath, feeling like you can't get like a full, deep, proper breath. But here's what's usually happening. So your adrenaline has increased your heart rate, and that's to prepare you for action, right? Because your body's thinking, oh, there's a danger, it's getting you ready to fight or flight. Yes, or to run away. Yes, it's giving you the extra push that you might need. So then the muscles around your chest have tightened, right? And yeah, you might not be like a big butch muscly person, but you have got muscles, yeah. And like everyone's got muscles there, so they will tighten. And your breathing therefore becomes quicker, more shallow, and that is without you realizing, okay? But then when you notice your breathing, you try to control it and suddenly it feels wrong, right? Because we don't, if we were just on a normal day sat at home, we're not going to be thinking like, oh, I've got to breathe now. Oh, I've got to breathe now. So it feels wrong. And this doesn't mean that your heart, can't get my words out there. This doesn't mean that your heart is weak or failing. Yeah, it means your heart is responding to stress hormones. Yeah. And your heart is strong, like from the moment you're born. Yeah, well, even before you're born, yeah, even when you're inside the womb, yeah, your heart's going, right? And it's doing exactly what it's designed to do. So you do not need to worry about those symptoms, okay? That is normal with anxiety. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's anxiety. Another one that tends to catch people out is when you're having like stomach or digestive symptoms. The gut and brain are deeply, deeply connected. If you don't believe me on that, look it up online. There's tons of studies about this, but your gut and brain are really connected. And when anxiety is present, digestion is not seen as essential by your nervous system. That is what creates that feeling that people often can say feels like butterflies in your stomach or nausea, like your stomach just generally having like discomfort or even like IBS type symptoms, loss of appetite, sudden urges to go to the toilet, like blood flow moves away from your digestion when your body needs it to survive, right? And that does not mean your stomach is broken. It means your nervous system is prioritizing protection over digestion. So I'll say that bit again. It means essentially that your nervous system is prioritizing protecting over digestion. But just remember, it's likely, unless something's actually dramatically happening to you, it's trying to protect you when you don't need that because it's just misfiring at the moment, okay? I suppose another symptom worth mentioning is about muscle and body sensations. And that causes people worry as well. I mean, all most of these do, to be honest. But yeah, and I suppose you get like muscle tension. It could be aches, pains, twitching, shaking, restlessness, even like heavy, weak limbs, and feeling unable to relax. And when adrenaline's in the system, the muscles are primed for action. And if that energy is not used, it gets stored up as tension. And muscle twitches are like incredibly common with anxiety because of that. But they are not a sign that there's something wrong with you. Okay, so you can see there's a common theme going here. And because people just get caught out on what, like how many symptoms anxiety can cause you. Like it's insane. It's the weirdest disorder there is, really. Um, they're all a sign that your nervous system is basically just trying to look out for you, but it's basically just constantly on that standby mode or alert mode, really. Um, so that's something just to hopefully that gives you a little bit of reassurance and a bit to bear in mind. Um, I'm going to go through like the anxiety symptom cycle now, and this part's really important because this is where anxiety keeps people stuck. The cycle often looks like this. Okay, so you'll notice a sensation, you interpret it as being dangerous, and your fear kicks in. Okay, and then you monitor it closely, and because you're doing that, your adrenaline increases. And then this sensation intensifies. So your fear grows and that loop continues. Okay. It goes round, round, and round. And realistically, the symptom itself is rarely the problem. The reaction to the symptom is what fuels it. Okay. So that is like the constant fuel to the fire. Yeah. So if we go, let's go through it again just to make sure you've got that. Because this, as I said, this is really, really important. So you notice some kind of sensation in your body. That can be the heart, your chest feeling tight, you're sweating low. It can be all of that we've gone through. Okay. And because you've noticed it, you then think, oh, what's that? It could be dangerous, right? Or your head thinks, what is it? And then that fear kicks in. And then you're monitoring it more closely. So then you don't normally spend the day thinking about your breathing, do you? But as soon as you realize you're a bit out of breath, you're like, oh, oh yeah, my breathing does feel a bit harder than normal. So then more adrenaline comes in. Them sensations get worse, so it feels worse. You get more scared because you're like, oh my God, it's getting worse. Yeah. And that loop, the fear grows and it just continues, doesn't it? It goes round and round and round and round and round. Okay. Um, so here's a gentle truth. What you resist persists. What you understand softens. So if you're trying to resist something, it will just keep going. Yeah. So if you try and fight that pain that you're having, the symptoms, it's going to get worse, right? But when you understand that it's just part of anxiety, a bit of acceptance, being non-judgmental of yourself, you will learn to be able to cope with it, teach yourself and rewire your brain that it's not danger, that everything's okay, and then you're retraining your brain that that is not a situation where you need to feel like that. Okay. People often ask how to get rid of symptoms. And the honest answer is that symptoms fade as your relationship with them changes. So that doesn't mean like forcing acceptance or pretending they're not there. It means reducing the fight. And things that help include the cutting it down is cutting down when you're looking for reassurance. Yes. If you're constantly looking for someone to say to you, oh, you'll be all right, you'll be all right. You don't need that because they're not you, they're not in you. And you believe your own voice more than you believe theirs. And reducing that constant body check-in. So if you're constantly checking yourself over for lumps, bumps, or sensations, you're going to find stuff. If you're constantly looking for it, you will find things that are wrong with you. But as I said, there's nothing actually wrong with you. It's just a symptom. But by allowing them to be present, these sensations to be present, and that's without trying to control them, gentle nervous system regulation, consistency rather than intensity, and your nervous system will heal through that repeated experience of safety. So, not through force, not through control, not through fear. I want to end this episode with this, and because I don't want to be too overbearing for this episode, because there's probably loads to take in here, and I have to be careful because I speak about it all the time, that I've got to make sure it's landing with the listeners, especially as being a new podcast, and obviously all feedback gets taken on board to make this show as good as possible. So I don't want to make it too sciencey or whatever. I want everything to be really accessible so it can help as many people as possible. But I want to end it with this, all about the symptoms side of things. And that is that the symptoms of anxiety are uncomfortable. They can be distressing. They can feel absolutely relentless, but they are not dangerous. And they are not permanent, or they don't have to be if you're putting in the work to actually try and not just let it take over your life. Your body is not working against you, and it is trying to protect you. And with understanding, patience, and the right support, it can learn that it is safe again. If this episode resonated with you, please let me know. You are not weak, you are not broken, and you are not alone. In future episodes, I'll be talking about panic attacks, DPDR, anxiety at night, health anxiety, and real recovery stories with some amazing, amazing guests. So please make sure you are subscribed to this podcast. If you want to watch it live, you can watch it over on YouTube. Most importantly, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Anxiety Relief Podcast. I hope today's episode left you feeling a little more calm, confident, and in control. Remember, small steps every day can lead to a big transformation in your life. If you found this episode helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who you think might benefit. For more tools and resources, head over to my website at www.rossrolf.com. And don't forget to join the Anxiety Relief Hub on Facebook, which is a supportive community where you can connect, share, and grow. Until next time.